Clinton think is the problem, and do you agree or disagree with her? 40 seconds. So you're writing what the problem is, you're explaining it, and you agree or disagree. That's why it says Clinton, agree, disagree, and explain. 15 seconds. I have one volunteer, please read out, what do you think Hillary Clinton says is the problem? Jay, go ahead.
Hillary Clinton thinks that the problem is that race is still a big problem in the country, and yes, it still affects the criminal justice system.
So she thinks that race definitely affects how people get treated in the criminal justice system. What else does she say race determines? Aaliyah.
Oh, your education.
Your education. She says race also determines your education in this country. That's a really interesting point. Does anyone want to add to that?
It also determines where you live.
One more time.
It also determines where you live.
It determines where you live. And that directly determines where you go to school. We all know how public schools work. Where you live, you go to the school closest to it. Yes, ma'am? It's a challenge. She says race relations is a challenge. Now we're going to the box directly across from where it says problem. Now we're going to look at the solution. What does Hillary Clinton think is the solution? She's going to say several things now. Start jotting them down. And then do you agree or disagree that that is a way to solve the problem? We've already established what the problem is. What she's about to say, is that going to help or is that going to hurt?
And we've got to do several things at the same time. We have to restore trust between communities and the police. We have to work to make sure that our police are using the best training, the best techniques, that they're well prepared to use force only when necessary. Everyone should be respected by the law, and everyone should respect the law. Right now, that's not the case in a lot of our neighborhoods. So I have, ever since the first day of my campaign, called for criminal justice reform. I've laid out a platform that I think would begin to remedy some of the problems we have in the criminal justice system. But we also have to recognize, in addition to the challenges that we face with policing, there are so many good, brave police officers who equally want reform. So we have to bring communities together in order to begin working on that as a mutual goal. And we've got to get guns out of the hands of people who should not have them. The gun epidemic is the leading cause of death of young African American men, more than the next 9 causes put together. So we have to do 2 things, as I said. We have to restore trust, we have to work with the police, we have to make sure they respect the communities and the communities respect them, and we have to tackle the plague of gun violence, which is a big contributor to a lot of the problems that we're seeing today.
All right, Mr. Trump, you have 2 minutes, Hank.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a minute to finish jotting down your thoughts, and we're going to share out. What did she say some of her solutions were? Do you agree or disagree? I'll give you a minute to finish jotting down. Do you agree or disagree? And explain. the solutions that Hillary Clinton says can help solve this race relation divide with police officers, DeShanti?
Restoring trust,
Restoring trust between who?
the police officers and the community.
Restoring trust between the police officers and the community. There's a lot of distrust right now, so one thing she says is we need to restore trust. What's another thing? Naeem,
She's talking about getting guns away from black people.
hold on one second. Okay, Naeem, one more time, can you say that?
She's talking about getting guns away from people
Getting guns away from people that
that shouldn't have them.
shouldn't have them. So she says we need to restore trust, getting guns away from people that shouldn't have them. What else? Can you expound on that? Kellen,
She said that the police should be trained in the best way, and they should also use force when it's necessary.
that we should get police training, police reform, that they should only use deadly force when absolutely necessary. Those are all great points. One more to add to it, Brian.
Do we have to stop gun violence?
Stop gun violence, for sure, that's adding to what Naeem said, that we should get guns out of the people that shouldn't have them, which will prevent gun violence. Okay, one more. Celine. And for people to respect the law. There's mistrust, there's no respect of the law, the police using deadly force, gun violence. These are all things and solutions that she has to the issue. Now we're gonna go to the box below on the left-hand side. Now Trump is gonna have the opportunity. Listen to what he has to say. What does he say the problem is? Do you agree or disagree, and explain? Remember, we're only gonna be talking about the problem, and then we'll be talking about the solution.
How do you heal the divide?
First of all, Secretary Clinton doesn't want to use a couple of words, and that's law and order. We need law and order. If we don't have it, we're not gonna have a country. And when I look at what's going on in Charlotte, a city I love, a city where I have investments, when I look at what's going on throughout various parts of our country, whether it's, I mean, I can just keep naming them all day long. We need law and order in our country. And I just got today, as you know, the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police. We just came in. We have endorsements from, I think, almost every police group, a large percentage of them in the United States. We have a situation where we have our inner cities, African Americans, Hispanics, are living in hell because it's so dangerous. You walk down the street, you get shot. In Chicago, they've had thousands of shootings, thousands, since January 1st. Thousands of shootings. And I'm saying, where is this? Is this a war-torn country? What are we doing? And we have to stop the violence. We have to bring back law and order in a place like Chicago where thousands of people have been killed, thousands, over the last number of years. In fact, almost 4,000 have been killed since Barack Obama became president. Almost 4,000 people in Chicago have been killed.
So, take a minute. What does he think the problem is? Explain. And do you agree or disagree? Is there a substitute? So she just let you guys come This is what you'll be getting. We're not talking about big picture stuff, we're just talking about this specific issue. So you don't have to say, oh, I agree with everything. Okay, so, can I have one or two volunteers share out what is the problem that he says we have? Joseph, go ahead. Or I guess interclass.
Bunch of deaths in certain places like Chicago, and we should bring back law and order to set things right.
Okay, so he says law and order is an issue. We have a lot of deaths in certain places in the country. What else? Does anyone want to add to that? Ryan, go ahead.
We need law and order in our country. Africans and Hispanics are living in hell. In Chicago, over 4,000 people have been killed.
So, he's name dropping right there. He's saying specifically Chicago, we have 4,000 deaths. He's specifically saying there are two races of people that he feels are being affected by this violence. He says African Americans and Hispanics. And it kind of goes into a little bit of his solution for this whole thing. He says law and order. He's going to talk a little bit more about what he thinks should be done. After this whole thing, we're going to talk about the agree or disagree portion. But for right now, keep that in mind. So that's the problem he says that we have, and a little bit of his solution. Now listen to the rest of his solution. We are now on the box opposite, where it says solution.
We have to bring back law and order. Now, whether or not in a place like Chicago you do stop and frisk, which worked very well, Mayor Giuliani is here, it worked very well in New York. It brought the crime rate way down. But you take the gun away from criminals that shouldn't be having it. We have gangs roaming the street, and in many cases, they're illegally here, illegal immigrants, and they have guns, and they shoot people. And we have to be very strong, and we have to be very vigilant. We have to know what we're doing. Right now, our police, in many cases, are afraid to do anything. We have to protect our inner cities because African American communities are being decimated by crime.
Your 2 minutes expired. I do want to follow up. Stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional in New York because it largely singled out Black and Hispanic young men.
No, you're wrong. It went before a judge who was a very against police judge. It was taken away from her, and our mayor, our new mayor, refused to go forward with the case. They would have wanted her killed. If you look at it, throughout the country, there are many places
The
where...
argument is that it's a form of racial profile.
No, the argument is that we have to take the guns away from these people that have them and that are bad people that shouldn't have them. These are felons. These are people that are bad people that shouldn't be... When you have 3,000 shootings in Chicago from January 1st, when you have 4,000 people killed in Chicago by guns from the beginning of the presidency of Barack Obama, his hometown, you have to have stop and frisk. You need more police. You need a better community relation. You don't have good community relations in Chicago. It's terrible. I have property there. It's terrible what's going on in Chicago. But when you look, and Chicago's not the only. You go to Ferguson, you go to so many different places. You need better relationships. I agree with Secretary Clinton on this. You need better relationships between the communities and the police, because in some cases it's not good. But you look at Dallas, where the relationships were really studied. The relationships were really a beautiful thing.